welcome to the Shakaama Live Show with your host, Shakaama. This is a sort of responsibility video, but I just want to give an encouraging speech to this type of woman. Why she didn't change her last name after she got married. Empowering speech to women. I want to empower women that aren't marriage material. I want to empower women that really don't see themselves getting married and having children. I want to empower those women that think they're independent. You go, girl. Women of today have been told that part of being independent women, working, being equal to men, making their own money, your body, your choice, being available to work, even when you're young, is also supposed to bleed over into marriage, where instead of changing your last name, you keep your own and don't change anything. The problem is that you end up with a nightmare scenario where when you get divorced, you get nothing. You don't get half. You don't get custody of the child. You don't get alimony. That's already being abolished by women who have to pay men alimony. And you don't get child support. If you go into marriage saying you are equals, then the court will treat you as equals. You leave the marriage as if you were two gay men. You split and basically you leave with the shirt you walked through the door with on. As to the last name, when you name your child with the groom's last name, you basically are telling the court that you really didn't take care in this marriage. You kept your last name and didn't have any input into the child, since the child has the father's last name. The groom's attorney can show, by definition, that you wanted no part of the marriage and really didn't contribute anything. You just happen to have gotten pregnant and that was a gift to the groom. People do that. Husband gets full custody, and although the court might order you to pay alimony and child support, you won't, because police don't come after women for alimony and child support. Only men. As a young, confused woman, you might think it's a big joke, but you don't get how we got to this point. Here's a brief history. The original feminists argued that a woman dedicated her life to her husband and her family and should be compensated if something happens, so she doesn't end up in the poorhouse, although the government shut those down when it started the welfare system. But that's another story. If we based on that dedication to husband and family, that all these current laws and court rulings were made, the state didn't want to support a woman that had no job, no skills, no means of supporting herself. So they ordered alimony, which is actually comes from, professional women. If they ever ended up pregnant, they were put away in the country with the kid and given the salary to keep quiet and far away from the man. But today's woman can get a job, can support herself, can be hired. Today's woman doesn't dedicate her life to her husband and her family. Today's woman is not wife material at all. So then what happens when such a woman gets married and doesn't carry his name? Well, she shouldn't have gotten married because she isn't a wife person. She's just some chick that had adult relations with a dude, nothing more. While a woman can make money, no man is looking at a woman for her money, her job, her salary, her career. And women don't seem to understand this. If they want to have a career, fine, have a career. Just don't get married. Don't want to carry your husband's name? Fine, just don't get married. Don't want to have kids? Fine, just don't get married. Marriage is, in fact, an institution. Trying to bring independence in it doesn't work. Understand, everything that's going on right now, it's okay not to be married. Recognize that you will not make a wife, let alone a good wife, and that's okay. I want you to be okay with not being a wife. You can't understand the thought of cooking for your husband? Fine, don't get married. You're not marriage material. You can't stand the idea of cooking for your family? Fine, don't get married. You're not marriage material. You can't stand the idea of picking up behind someone big or small? Fine, don't get married. You're not marriage material. It's okay. You're not marriage material. Embrace it and be empowered by it. Be empowered by the fact that you don't want children. Be empowered by the fact that you would never want to pick up behind a grown man or a child. Confess that thought to the universe and be empowered. Not everyone can be marriage material, and that's okay. Some people have to work. Some people have to be the worker bees. And please, don't be lazy and think you can just trick some guy into forking over his money because you're a woman. That's demeaning to women. That's objectifying women. You need to be independent, strong, self-sustaining. You go out and make your own money and live your own life. You don't need to be stuck at home with kids. And this world doesn't need more kids from people who don't want to dedicate their entire lives to kids. You're doing them a favor by not bringing them into the world. Think about that. Some people say, this world is too dangerous, or this world is too messed up, and they don't want to bring a child into this world. Great! You are doing them a favor. Be empowered by this emotion. Be empowered knowing that you did not contribute to the nightmare. Stand strong and independent. You can do it. Women can do it. That's what they said during the 40s and 50s. Now, in the 40s and 50s, they completely meant a completely different thing. They were trying to make sure that women were encouraged that they could go and work in factories when they had been used to being at home, taking care of the children, being sort of pampered, taken care of by the husband, and he would work all day and come home and then take them out for dinner every weekend and dinner and dancing. That's where the real dating actually happened, though. It was the married couples that would go out and basically keep the economy going, because they would go out and spend money on dinner, dancing, and then later on came movies. Movies weren't so big back then, but now they're a be all end all. And that's how it was. And that's where the Rosie the Riveter actually came from, is when they went off, the men went off to Europe. The women were called to come out of the house and stop taking care of the kids and go work in the factories for the good of the country. And to really encourage them, they made Rosie the Riveter. And Rosie the Riveter represented that women could do it. They could go work in the factories and make tanks and make planes and make all sorts of stuff that they needed over in Europe, and then when the men came back home, instead of them saying, okay, you can go back home and go back to raising your children and living a good life, they tried to encourage them to stay working. And for some reason that took off. That really gained momentum, and they were publicizing that women were able to work while the men were off in Europe. And so then they said, you know what? You don't have to rely on him to get your own money. And then they started promoting stories of the rare woman who became a widow, and everything had been in the husband's name, and it would actually take her, about a day or so of speaking with lawyers to get everything changed into her name and everything put in the house and stuff, they all put in her name. But they tried to publicize stories of saying that she did not go to the lawyer and that she did not get stuff put in her name and that she really suffered when that really was not the case. But that's how they publicize the story. It's all how you say what the story was. It having to be truthful or not doesn't matter. It's just how you say the story. And the fact is, there was no massive women suffering from being widows and not having any financial support from a man that really from society that traditionally supported the women financially. So this whole notion that the women needed money was just it's a big story. That's all it was. It's funny when you tell it and have people believe it, and you sell newspapers, but in fact, the fact is that women were completely taken care of. And in fact, they were called the leisure class, meaning that they didn't have to work. They were comparing women to rich people and I'm talking about really rich people, wealthy people who literally do not have to work. They have invested their money so wisely that their children and their children's children and their children's children's children will never have to work. And they were comparing women to those people and calling them the leisure class because women did not have to work, didn't have to do anything. I want you to really be aware of that. And so, if that's not you, that's not what you want, I want you to be empowered. I want you to know that you are independent and that you can go to work. You can make your own money. You can live your life. And I want to not encourage you to not get married if that's not what's in you. I want you to be empowered. And I want you to say that it's okay. You don't have to be married. You don't have to have children. What I don't want is you to get married and have children and then suddenly come to the realization that you really don't want children, and then now you have this tiny being in the world and or not, right? You know what I'm talking about. And realize that you don't want kids, and then you do all sorts of stuff that messes that child's life up because of your own opinions about life and the universe in general, right? So I want you to be empowered. I want you to really be encouraged to really, really take home that you should come to grips with what you actually want in life. You want a career? Good. For the most part, a woman with a career is not marriage material. That's just how it's worked out. That's just how it is. And for the majority, and I mean like 99%, for the majority, it just does not work. Now, for all of those women who are writing all sorts of books and novels and stuff, trying to tell you that it does, you can have a career and you can be married with children, I'm trying to tell you, no, doesn't happen. Does not happen. And in fact, they came out with a report that said from Europe, saying that the most successful women in the business world, in the career world, in the professional world, simply were female men. That's all. That's it. That they were just women who basically acted like men. They weren't married, had no children, worked all the time. They went up the corporate ladder, worked their way up, and were successful. And it's a shame that so many women who actually want to be married and then say that they want a career or but not in that order, but that deep down inside they want to be married, they want to have children, go start dabbling in the career path. And what's really a shame is that they dabble in the career path, they go get education, and a lot of money is thrown at them I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm just telling you what facts are facts. And a lot of money's thrown at them. They get scholarships, they get grants, they get this and that and the other. They take out loans, they take out student loans, and then they graduate, and then they go get a job working in whatever field that they thought they wanted to do. And then they get married, and then they quit. And they're married with children. And now they have $100,000 in debt, in college debt. And now that industry is out one person that probably millions of dollars were actually put into to reach the point where she actually got the job, was in the industry, and had responsibilities. If you pluck that out, there's a hole there. And I'm telling you, it might not be such a big hole by one person, but the thing is, that happens systematically. It's a systemic thing where thousands of women go into these industries, get married, and quit. I want to empower you to understand that if you want to be married and have children, I want you to be empowered from day one. I want you to tell your mom and dad, you know what, mom, dad? I want to just be a wife and a mother. I want you to be empowered by that. I want you to show them this video that says it's okay to be married with children. I don't have to go to college. I don't have to get a career because I want to be a wife and a mother. That's okay. Also, I want you to sit down with your parents and say, you know what? I don't want to get married. I don't want to have children. I want to go have a career, and you go and study and get a profession, get a career, what have you. And that's what you do. I don't want you to be confused. And I want you to be happy. Because there's a lot of unhappiness going on. I want you to be happy. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be empowered. That whatever decision you make, I want you to make it with eyes wide open. Career and mother and wife does not mix. That's a fact. And for 99% of the cases, that's a fact. If you happen to be rich, and I doubt any rich person is watching me, and I'm talking about wealthy, filthy McNasty rich, has servants for their servants. Then you can have it all. You can have but you're not really firing on all cylinders, if you know what I mean there. You're not having to worry about putting food on the table. You're not worried about can I go home for the recital. More than likely, you're going to be choosing a profession, if you're already rich, where you can take off in the middle of the afternoon and not return to work, and everything is A-okay. That's a different story. That's when you can have it all. If you have to worry about if you don't have to worry about not getting written up and you're rich and what have you, that's when you can have it all. But if you do have to worry about getting written up, if you do have to make excuses about why you need to go see your daughter's recital, why you need to take off from work because your son is sick, why you have to stay at home because your husband is also ill and maybe broke something, and you have to wait on him hand and foot at home because he can't even walk around the house, you can't have it all. You can't. And the studies show that. And I want to bring you this information, and I want you to be empowered now. And I am 100% serious. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being anything. You can't have it all. This is some tough love, with love, stressing on love. These are facts. I'm not going to tell you you can have it all. You have to be wealthy, not even a millionaire. You have to be wealthy to have it all as a woman. You can be a wife. You can be a mother. Be happy with it. You can have a career. You can work your way up the corporate ladder. Be happy with it. Do not be unhappy if you start a career, have children, and your husband says, why don't you take off for a while, maybe 2 to 5 years out of your career, and then you look towards the career 5 years later and say, I want my job. And of course, then you're making what you made 5 years ago, and everybody else is making what they make after 5 years of hard work and we're going to work every day. And some places keep your job open. Some places can't. They have deadlines and goals to meet each and every week. Every quarter still rolls around. All of their creditors still have their hand out saying, pay us. They have to move on. Companies cannot stay in a place of doing whatever and keep you on the payroll. They just can't do it. I don't want you to be unhappy about that. I want you to understand that that's how the world works. It doesn't stop for you. And I want you to be encouraged that if you want to be a mom, be a mom. Do something on the side. If you really need money and where you want to buy yourself an Escalade, a Mercedes, a BMW, what was the Mercedes SUV? I forgot what it's called. If you want that, get you a side job. There you go. You got to use some spending money, and don't be away from the kids that long, right? You go do a little side job, little temp job, and then you are still home to pick up the kids. And they've done psychological reports of kids who had the latchkey kids had it terrible. And please don't leave a comment saying, I was a latchkey kid. I did fine. I was a latchkey kid too for a time before we had maids and butlers and stuff like that. And it was not good. It was not good. I had all sorts of scared. I was scared, and my mother wouldn't come home until late in the evening. And it was just, that was terrible. That was terrible. That was frightening. I'm in a house by myself. And even then, the house was not small, so it was not a good deal. And that is not a good. Understand that is not a good situation for a child. So yeah, you need to be there to pick your kids up from school, bring them home, sit with them, do their homework with them, and make dinner. And when the husband comes home, we got to fix him a plate of dinner. Yeah, that's how it works. That's the good wife. I want to encourage you that it's okay to be the good wife. And I want you to encourage you, you don't want to carry his name, you're probably not marriage material. And I want you to be okay with that. I want you to be okay with it. And when the clock starts ticking on you, I want you to understand that that's what you wanted. You didn't want to have children. So don't go out and, like they said, the men have the midlife crisis and they go out and buy the Porsche. Well, the man can go out and buy the Porsche. He goes out and buys whatever he wants to buy during the midlife crisis because he can afford it. He's not going to go out and buy something that he can't afford and ruin his credit. The midlife crisis is just he wants to feel young again, and that's it. I don't want your clock start ticking and you go out and do something that's not quite logical, right, for your life. I don't want you to bring a child into the world by itself and not rely and not have a husband. For a child, a husband is the absolute, a father is the absolute best scenario. And you can make all the excuses you want to, what's best for the child. A father, a married father, that's the best thing for a child. And I want you to be encouraged to only do what's the best. But I also want you to be encouraged to do what's the best for you. And I want you to have it with eyes wide open. You can't be a mom, a wife, and a career woman. You just can't. Sorry. And I want you to be empowered to understand that that's the way right now life is. In the future, we won't have jobs, so you won't even have this discussion. Ooh, you want to think about that one? in the future, your daughters won't have to worry about this. They won't have to worry about going to work at all. Nobody will work. The robots will do everything. Thank y'all for watching. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Show me some love. This is all coming from a point of love. It doesn't matter to have understanding and knowledge and studies and what have you if you don't really share it in the proper light that it should be shared. A lot of people try and share it in a negative light. I'm trying to share it in the most positive light ever. I want you to be encouraged. And I want you to stand on your own feet and decide, I want to be a wife. I want to be a professional whatever. Go out and do it. Thank y'all for watching.